Hey everybody, it's Mike Kleanowitz coming to you from my deck today. It's Sunday, so I'm kind of taking off work today. That's why I'm doing the podcast from home today on my deck. It's finally nice enough to be out here. I'm hoping the weather stays the same, so I'll be able to have my men's group out here on Tuesday when everybody comes over to the house. It'll be really nice just to kind of sit outside and have fellowship with everybody. But today I want to continue what I was doing from yesterday. I'm going to shorten it up a little bit in terms of the actual readings. I'm going to stick, I think, mostly to the Proverbs reading, because with Psalms, there's 5 Psalms. I already read them, but I think instead of reading them to you, I don't want to lose people and have too much scripture. You know what I mean? 'Cause I think sometimes people maybe get turned off by some of that stuff. So, what I want to do today is continue what we were doing from yesterday. I'm going to read Proverbs 2 and kind of discuss that a little bit, and then see where the Spirit winds on taking me with the message for today, because I'm not sure what the message is yet. I kind of like doing this. I kind of like winging it and kind of leaving it unplanned and just kind of seeing what happens, with the Spirit as it kind of comes over me and I'm able to talk to you and figure everything out. So, all right. So here it goes. So Proverbs 2 says, "My child, listen to what I say and treasure my commands. Tune your ears to wisdom." Again, it's the same thing with listening. Tune your ears to wisdom. From yesterday, we talked about listening, and concentrate on understanding. Cry out for insight and ask for understanding. Search for them as you would for the silver. Seek them like hidden treasures. Then you will understand what it means to fear the Lord, and you will gain knowledge of the Lord. So that's where how you get wisdom. For the Lord grants wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He grants a treasure of common sense to the honest. So people who are honest. He is a shield to those who walk with integrity, um, which is another way of being honest. It's about doing the right thing, even when people aren't looking. So, like, even when you're by yourself and, you get ready to walk into a store and you see that there is, $200 in cash laying on the floor. Well, obviously, that cash came from somewhere. So, do you just pick it up and take it and keep it? Or do you pick it up and try to find the person who's looking for it? Because I'm sure there'll be somebody who's frantically looking for it around, who lost it. Or do you give it to the store and say, if somebody comes in and says they lost $200 in cash, and you give it to the store clerk? Is that what you do? Or do you take it and say, oh, nobody notices, nobody's around? I mean, that's integrity. You either have integrity or you don't have integrity, and it's doing the right thing even when nobody's watching. So, um, he guards the path of the just and protects those who are faithful to him. Then you will understand what is right, just, and fair, and you will find the right way to go. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will fill you with joy. Wise choices will watch over you. Understanding will keep you safe. Wisdom will save you from evil people, from those whose words are twisted. These men turn from the right way to walk down dark paths. They take pleasure in doing wrong, and they enjoy the twisted ways of evil. Their actions are crooked, and their ways are wrong. Wisdom will save you from the immoral woman, from the seductive words of the promiscuous woman. She has abandoned her husband and ignores the covenant she made before God. Entering her house leads to death. It is the road to the grave. The man who visits her is doomed. Doomed. He will never reach the paths of life. Wow. Follow the steps of the good men instead, and stay on the paths of the righteous. For only the godly will live in the land, and those with integrity will remain in it. But the wicked will be removed from the land, and the treacherous will be uprooted. Wow, that's pretty powerful stuff. So it's saying, and the Psalms today, just to kind of reflect a little bit on that. We're talking about how the wicked and how they feel like they're getting away with things and how nothing's ever going to happen to them and that kind of stuff. And they think, well, we're living in the land. We got the big house. We got all our toys. We got all our stuff. We got, all the money. We're making all the money from ripping off people and doing shady business practices and whatever and not living our lives full of integrity and, charging people too much or, telling them the wrong stuff and just and taking advantage of people. A lot of people in business, man, that's what they do. That's what businesses are built on. A lot of them, and some of them are just bad businesses out there. Preying on people, and all businesses to a degree do prey on people. I mean, look at advertising. Like look at the commercials on TV. Some of these commercials are very trying to tell you, well, this is how you should feel, and this is how you should be, and this is how you should want to live, and this is how you should take care of yourself. And to do that, you need my product, and they do that, and they do it in advertising for 3 easy payments of whatever, and then, or the sweatshirt. This is my favorite. I just bought an online sweatshirt. Talk about deceptive practices. They what they do is they get you to buy this ridiculously priced sweatshirt of like $15 of this like really nice sweatshirt, and it's got a real nice like religious saying on the back, or it's a sweatshirt about suicide prevention or something like that you wear. And what you do is you click on the link to buy it. So number one, you buy it, and then you enter in all your information about it. So they get all your information and keep spamming your email and stuff. And then what happens is you got to pay shipping and handling, but they didn't put that in the ad. So the shipping and handling is like $20. So the sweatshirt was only $15, but the shipping and handling is like $20. And then what they do is they enroll you into their VIP club or whatever, and it's a monthly club that you're in, that you have access to buy more stuff from them, and it's a fee of $39.95, and you're automatically opted into it unless you cancel, and it's like very fine print on what you have to do to cancel your membership. So again, they're trying to get people who don't read things, who just buy things, and then all of a sudden they just start charging them like $39 a month. Like, this is what they're talking about. Like, that's not having integrity. You're trying to sell the snake oil salesman approach. Trying to rip people off. No different than the real estate agent that has that guaranteed home sale program that I guarantee if I don't sell your house, that I'll buy it for significantly less than what you could probably sell for on your own if you just put a sign on the front lawn by yourself and did a for sale by owner. So again, it's deceptive marketing, deceptive practices, just so much deception and evil out there in the world. And you don't have to be like that. Like I go to some of these top producer panel masterminds, whatever, and for real estate to learn from, tips from the top training or whatever. And, you go and you see these guys who sell like, 400 homes a year or whatever, and they got this team of like 25 people, and they talk about what they do, and they come in the morning and they role play and they script play, and they try to teach their sales agents on how to manipulate people into getting what they want, which is the sale, which is getting them to sign the contract, getting them to do the paper and stuff, and it's just like, the business doesn't have to be like that. Why can't you just be honest with people and live your life that way, and just have a nice conversation with somebody and tell them the truth? Here's what you could sell your house for. This is what I can do for you. This is what I will do for you, and then be a man of your word. Don't try to make smoke and mirrors about why you justify charging them all this money that you really don't need to be charged. You know what I mean? Charge them a fair price. So, um, I'm trying to think what else kind of spoke to me from this. Let me open it back up again and take a quick peek. Usually towards the end is where it really. So for only the godly will live in the land, and those with integrity will remain in it. So only those with the integrity will remain in it. So just because you have land, and just because you have wealth, and just because you have all your toys and everything out there that you think are yours, don't think that he can't take it away from you, because it says the next sentence in verse 22, but the wicked will be removed from the land. Now, it doesn't say when, doesn't say how, it doesn't say all that. It just says they will be removed. So, I guess it just depends on how big the sins were in terms of how big the move's going to be. You know what I mean? Is it going to be a fire? You're going to lose everything. I don't know. But weird things happen sometimes, and that's the thing. Like, everything happens in our life, in this life that we live, and it's a lesson. Everything is a lesson for us to learn from, whatever happens to us. And sometimes it's hard for people to understand when they're going through some really significant, trials and tribulations and testing by God or whatever. Just very, a lot of adversity and just challenges and struggles, and just hard stuff to live with in life. And you sit down and you say, well, why me? And, I'm not a bad person. And why does all this have to happen to me? And then you start feeling bad for yourself and all this stuff. But, you know, what you should be saying is, what is God trying to teach me from having this experience in my life? So, like, what can I learn from going through all this struggle and all this hurt and all this pain and all this, bad stuff? Like, what can I learn from that to make it so that I won't have to go through that again if something happens again in my life in a similar way? You know, maybe it's maybe it's like a divorce or something. Maybe you got together with your wife, and you wanted to marry her and you worshiped her because she was super attractive, and she was just hot, and you're like, man, I want to marry that girl. She is so hot. Well, it's not all about the beauty all the time, and God, maybe he's teaching you a lesson that, you put her above God, and I know one guy who's probably watching this is saying, "Oh, he's talking about me. He's talking about," but I'm not. I'm just using it as an example because the situation that he went through is probably very common. I think you go out to a bar, you get a little tipsy. I mean, you're starting to flirt around, and you meet somebody, and then you think they're awesome, you think they're attractive. One thing leads to another, and then you go back to their place, they go back to your place, and whatever, like. But when you read the Bible, you're not supposed to be doing that stuff. You're not supposed to be. I'll just go soft here, go like rated G version, just call it hooking up, But you're not supposed to be hooking up, if you're not married, right? You're not. Um, so, people have a hard time with that, but when you hook up with somebody else, you become one flesh together, and God didn't design us to use our bodies like that. He has this strict covenant against a man and a woman, and them being in marriage together. And maybe you need to learn that the marriage that you got was built on sand, man. It wasn't built on rock. you know and if you go back into Matthew, you'll see what I'm talking about. Maybe just because you got into it and you got infatuated with each other and you both fell into lust. Lust is one of the sins there. you know and you both lusted after each other, and then you just got this attraction and stuff, and it's common. I mean, it's more common than anybody thinks. Like when you get in a relationship, you go after somebody, and maybe this is what I'm supposed to talk about today, is relationships. And it's not just for this isn't just a podcast for adults, man. This is a podcast for teenagers too. I mean, for my own kids, maybe they'll watch it one day and be like, man, Dad actually knows a little bit about what he's talking about. Not at the time when they're teenagers, because no teenager is going to admit that their parents know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? And that's why I look at us, anybody who's a non-believer or anybody who's not significantly walking in faith every single day and surrendering themselves and turning themselves over to God and just giving their life to God every day. If you're not doing that, you're no different than a rebellious teenager. No matter how old you are, you could be 18 years old, you could be 75 years old. If you haven't turned yourself over to God, you're basically a rebellious teenager saying to your father, I don't need you. You don't need to tell me what to do. I know what to do. I've been doing this my whole life. I know better than you, and I don't have to listen to you. And God's sitting back there and he's saying, I tell you what, you got free will, man. So do what you want to do, right? I'll sit back. I'll let you go, and we'll see. We'll see. We will see how that works out for you. You know, because me being God, I already know how it's going to work out for you. But you don't want to listen to me, and see, I could give you the wisdom. If you want to follow me and you want to be an honest person and you want to be a just person and you want to be a person with integrity and you want to be somebody who wants to pick up your cross and follow me every day, I'll teach you the right way. I'll show you all the wisdom and knowledge I have in my, I don't even know if it's a brain or whatever you want to call it, whatever God has. He's got something we don't even understand. You know what I mean? But he knows, like he just knows that what the best thing is for you. So you just gotta submit, man. You just gotta turn it over to him. You just gotta let him just take the reins and just show you how to live your life, right? And he'll help you. So like what you can learn with your relationship and how you should be basing your relationship is using God as your wingman. You know what I mean? Like when you're out there and you see an attractive woman, I'm not saying you can't talk to an attractive woman, or if you're a woman, you can't talk to an attractive man or whatever, flirt with them and stuff like that. Like, but there's a fine line between there and then winding up in the bedroom together at the end of the night. So, there's somewhere in that gray area is where you cross the line, and that's where the lust takes over and whatever. So, you know, what I'm saying is take God to be your wingman instead of taking one of your girlfriends to go with you and sit at a different table and just kind of be there in case you need to dip out or whatever. Or same thing with the guy, taking your wingman with you. Take God with you, man. Because when you're walking with God, He's going to divinely set it up that you're going to wind up meeting somebody that's super awesome for you. And, you might not even know who the person is when you first meet them, but like when you're walking with God, you just have this protection about you, and this aura about you, and this energy about you, and people, this light about you, and people just get attracted to it, and some people get repulsed by it because they have demons and stuff. And when you have this light, that's the great thing, is that when you shine this light, that God gives you from your heart, from the Holy Spirit, and you shine this light out there, and you put yourself out there to the universe and say, universe, I need to find a companion to go through life with. The ones that are going to be attracted to you are going to be ones that have that light too. So you're going to find somebody who's a believer. You're going to find somebody who is a Christian. You're going to find somebody who has the same values and morals and ethics and integrity and righteousness and character and all the stuff that you have. That's what you're going to find when you start to shine your light. So it's almost like you got to work on yourself first and with God, so He can kind of fix you up to make you like marketable on the street with people, so you can shine your light to everybody. And then you can have your confidence about yourself, and you can have that swagger about yourself. And what's going to happen is these other people who might be super duper attractive to you visually through the flesh, as you walk deeper and deeper in faith with God, you're going to start to see them differently. And you're going to start to see these people and feel their demonic forces that they have on them. And then you don't wind up with one of these, you know, um, women or men out there who are just a horrible person, and you're going to have a horrible relationship with. God doesn't want that to happen to you, especially if you walk with Him. He wants you to be paired with someone who's going to help balance you out. But like, you can't expect to just go out and find somebody if you're not willing to do the work on yourself first. The journey with God is all about healing, right? It's all about healing yourself and healing your problems. And until you get a little older in life, this is why you don't get married when you're 6 years old to your best friend in the sandbox. You don't have any experience. You don't have any real problems. You don't have any real struggles yet that you've had to work through, that you need to learn from your experiences, because everything happened to us to teach us something. So you have to go through a whole bit of life that get taught a whole bunch of stuff before you really have a serious type of relationship. And it's okay to not be in a serious relationship with someone until you're older. It's okay, if you wait to get married until you're in your 30s. It's okay if you don't have sex when you're 14 years old, and all the pressures that come with, you haven't had sex yet. I've had sex. Everybody has sex. Like, don't fall into that peer pressure thing. Like that is a special thing that you should save, for yourself, between, your soulmate and yourself. Like, how awesome would that be if you save that gift, of until you met the right person to be with. There's no need for that. And don't make the other mistake and go to the other side and say, well, if I'm not having sex, well, then I need to still control my lust, and I need to go through and look at porn or whatever. Like, no, that's not what we're saying at all here. We're saying, like, just abstain, until you find your soulmate. And there's nothing hard about it when you have God working with you, you are able to accomplish anything you want to accomplish. So it's a matter of, is it important enough to you to follow God's laws and God's rules, and God's commandments, and live your life like Jesus would? You know, if Jesus wasn't out there having sex with women, would he be home, looking at porn? No, he's not going to be doing that. So, you shouldn't be doing it either, you know? And it's as simple as that. But in terms of the relationship advice, I mean, you got to fix yourself first because man, we are messed up people. All of us walking around on this earth, and like me myself, I say this every day. When I surrender myself to God on a daily basis, I feel like what I'm doing is I'm like, picture yourself as a car, right? Or SUV or truck or whatever you want to say you are, right? So every day you wake up and like you start yourself up, you get your coffee, you get on Facebook, you scroll through your stuff, your car's warming up and stuff like that, and you're getting ready to pull out of the driveway, and it's like, all right, well, I need to make sure that we're good to go before we go on this long journey we're going to have today. So what I'm going to do is every day I'm going to go stop by my mechanic, who charges me absolutely nothing, by the way, for free, you know, brake check, tune up, like oil changes, whatever you want to have done, tire rotations, fluid checks, all that stuff. And it's completely free every single day. You just pull in the morning before you start your day, and you let him kind of make sure everything's working and greased up, and everything's working the way it's supposed to be working, and everything's fooled up, and you get an a-okay check. It's like that's what you do when you wake up in the morning. You have your coffee, and then you say some prayers, and you read some scripture, and you say your Bible verses. That's what you're doing. You're pulling your car into the mechanics shop every single morning or every single day, and you're saying, all right, like fix me up a little bit, let's get me kind of lubed up and ready to go. Not in that way, that's not what I'm saying, but get me all good to go, and then you have a day where it's like it's a great day, nothing bothers you, and you have no stress, and you have everything that happens in your life that day happens for a reason. And you get some tests, and you get some struggles, and you get whatever, but you get choices that you get to make, and hopefully based on what you're doing every day, you start to make better and righter choices for yourself in every aspect of your life. And that's the whole goal here, is to heal yourself, without having to go to some psychologists and psychiatrists and telling them all your deepest, darkest fantasies and whatever you need to tell them, and things that you've been through in your life. Like, that's personal stuff, man. But like, you got a Jesus out there, and you got a God out there that'll listen to you, and he can be your psychologist, and he can be your psychiatrist, and he can listen to everything that you want to tell him, and tell him what you want to fix, what you want to get better at, and you're going to start to see that as you continually do this day after day after day, your life is just going to start to improve so much, and you're just going to be like, man, how did I go from this to this? And you're only going to be able to look back and say, well, it's because I have a relationship with the Lord now, and I love the Lord now, and I make him a priority in my life, and he is number one. He's my number one guy. He's the King of Kings. He knows everything about everything you could possibly want to know about. And he's my guy. He's my wingman. He's my mechanic in the morning. He's my coach during the day. He does everything that he needs to do for me, spiritually, and just cleanses me and just keeps evil away from me. And because I believe in him, He makes my light so bright. He makes it so bright that all the evil out there and all the demonic forces out there, because they are very real. Let me tell you, there's some really good demonic forces out there in darkness. Most people in this world walk in darkness because they just don't have the Lord. And but when you have Him, man, He makes your light shine so bright. What does it do? It kills the darkness. It destroys the darkness. It obliterates the darkness. And the devil can't stand it. He can't stand it. So he will attack you, But when you have God, you don't have to worry because God doesn't lose. He wins every single time. He knows everything. He created everything. And nobody's going to beat him no matter what. It's never going to happen. So, do you want to walk with him? Or do you want to walk with the guy that gets beat down every single time? Right? I mean, that's Satan. So, what are you doing in your life and who are you walking with? Are you walking with God or are you walking with the devil? And that's really what you got to ask yourself. And where are your priorities? Because if you're ignoring God, and you're ignoring what he's telling you, and you're ignoring all these free resources that cost you absolutely no money to improve yourself and improve your life and improve everything about yourself, if you're going to ignore every single thing that's out there, you're making a decision then to say, I'm going to let the devil lead my life because he's going to be more than happy to do it. He's going to be more than happy to lead you to the bar so you can get drunk. He's going to be more than happy to lead you to the dispensary so you can buy your weed. He's going to be more than happy to lead you to the casino so you can gamble your money away. And he's going to be more than happy to do all that stuff for you. All the distractions in life, all of them. He's like, come on, let's play. It's the devil's playground. That's what this world is. The devil runs the show down here. But when you have God, he doesn't let the devil impact your life, man. He's there, but you have this protection. You have this authority. You have this light. You have this beam that just shines about you where you don't have to worry about anything else. So, you got to ask yourself at the end of the day, what is most important for you and what do you want out of life? Do you want somebody who's going to help you, do the right thing and who's going to help you, figure out the right places to go and the right connections to make and the right people to talk to and all the right things? Or do you want to just be walking around lost like a lost sheep, waiting for the wolf to come and get you, with no shepherd protection anywhere? I want to be around the shepherd, man. So with that, I'll kind of end it because we're running out of time. So thank you for watching the podcast. I hope everybody got something out of this. And I'm looking forward to doing more of these in the next coming days. Take care. See you later. Have a good one.